Welcome back to New Realities. I'm Alan Steinfeld, and I'm here again with Brett Cotter, who has an amazing approach to trauma, to stress, to transformation. I think you really have mastered something, Brett, because you're bringing in a whole other element that people don't include when they're dealing with, like, the personal coaching. You're bringing in a kind of spiritual awareness there. And do you want to talk about your approach? And then we'll
Sure,
go into some of the kind of processes you do with people. So
sure.
please, yes, thanks.
So thank you so much for having me, and really thank you for what you said. I don't think I've mastered it, but I'm definitely onto it. Like I go through my own stress. Sometimes I remember to do it. Sometimes it gets away from me and then I pull it back in after. So, but I'll let you know when I master it.
No, but tell me, what is it you pull back in and what is it that you
Right,
don't do and all that work you
right.
do?
So when me and you were talking about getting together, I think we were talking about a spiritual approach to healing trauma, right? And the first thing that pops in my head was, what is spirit? What is trauma? What is memory? And what the work that I do does, it brings our spirit into the tension in our body. So our body houses the tension, and our spirit is all about expansion, right? And if you just think about spirit, when I think of it, I think of life force energy. And then I usually go right to source. And at the source, at the center of the universe, you have life force energy emitting, permeating, right? It could be in every direction, or it could be in one direction, but it's permeating out and disseminating out into the universe. And then at the extremities of the universe, you have us, right? These little specks of source that are alive here. So we're life force energy. And we expand, right? When we're in our spirit, we're in that place of unconditional love. But the body holds a ton of memory, right? So you have spirit, it's about expansion, life force, the source. Then you have memory. It logs every experience that the spirit has had since it left home, right? And there's many different levels to memory. You have soul memory, right? Over multiple lifetimes, in between lifetimes, future lifetimes, alternate reality lifetimes. Then you have ancestral memory of your ancestors that were here before you. That's more logged into your physical DNA in your body. And then you have all the memories from your lifetime, this lifetime. And trauma, to me, is just tension. It's when we go through a moment in our evolution, in our life, when there's immense tension because we are in fear of that disconnection from our source, right?
So I also say, before you go further, that you're going to be working with people for a whole weekend in the Catskills from December 2nd to the 5th on these issues. And also we'll also get into how you're just not working psychologically. You're actually helping to shift the vibration. You're actually raising people. Yeah.
So that's a great point. So people, and even the program director that first brought me into Omega, she actually wrote a beautiful testimonial. It's on the website. She said that the way people were standing and smiling and walking and talking was completely different from how they walked in. And it is an absolute physical transformation in your body. All we're doing is there's a few psychological tricks that I learned that unlock and release our darkest fears and our biggest traumas from our formative years, from this deep subconscious, and we put them right on the table. Once those biggest fears are on the table, then the real trick is calling in spirit with the power of the spoken word, and spirit rushes right in to console that tension, to unlock it and release it from your bones, your organs, your muscles, your skin, your eyes, your brain, everything, your spine. And you actually feel the layers of old tension unlocking and releasing. And this is what really hooked me into this work when I had my first session receiving it from a healer in 1999. It felt like I was being bathed with waves of unconditional self-love, where I felt it in every cell in my body, like even the cells in my my fingernails, my toenails, every hair in my body. I felt the vibration and the frequency moving through me. And ever since then, that was about 23 years ago, I've been walking towards this mysterious energy we call spirit, right? And what I found was, if you bring up someone's deepest, darkest pains, right, that there might be multiple defense mechanisms around ever feeling. But if we can pick the lock, put that pain out there, spirit comes rushing in to save the day. And the person, this is the most beautiful part, the person gets to feel it from the inside out, from inside their body. And that's really where the transformation takes place for me, when they start to embody it, and their instincts change, their habits change, and their reactions change, right? So that, to me, is the most important key in all this, because most of our lives are spent dealing with, like, we have these coping mechanisms, right? And we don't even realize we're doing it. We're just doing these things that have nothing to do with our own divine purpose, our true purpose, but they're just these coping mechanisms that pass time to help us not feel the pain that we're carrying around. And you never know how much pain you have until you start letting big chunks of it go. So just imagine all of a sudden in 45 minutes, you let go of all your issues with your mom or all your issues with your dad. You know what I mean? So you could just imagine what chunks of your body start to feel, like the areas around your spine.
How do you do that in 45 minutes? People spend, 30 years in therapy trying to do that. So how do you do it in 45 minutes?
That's a great question. So I don't do it, is the simple answer. I'm good at one thing. I could get out of the way, right? So I take my ego, my mind, whatever you want to call it, I put it on the shelf and I start listening to the divine guidance that's coming through my client's higher self, telling me what to say, to have them repeat those words, which is the expression of that root pain and the biggest fears. And then once in a while, there'll be a moment where a guided session of inner child healing work will happen, where the person is in the throes of, like, let's say they're cross to bear, right? Some situation that happened in their formative years, and that part of you is left decimated as a child. Well, some of the inner child work is, we have the you that is all knowing, the you that has done all your work, the you that goes back and forth to source and comes here, that is interconnected throughout the universe, that comes to you in that memory and consoles you and reunites with you and comes back for you. And that is like a soul level recovery, that the imagery changes the entire memory of the experience. And that's where memory comes in.
Well, give me an example of, like, all that, someone you've worked with. You don't have to name them, but process that, because it makes it more real. Yes.
Sure. So there was a fellow at a retreat that I did, and he was battling a 9-month battle with his son with cancer, right? Super, super emotional. And at one point in the battle, the son stopped breathing. Right. And they were in a hospital, and there was like 15 doctors around them. And in reality, what happened was, he was kneeling, holding his son's feet, crying. Right. That was the memory. And he had so much PTSD, even though his son lived and is in full recovery right now. He had so much PTSD from that moment that he came to the retreat. And what happened, and I can't plan this, what happened was, when he was in that moment and all that pain came up, that was like inconsolable. Then I was guided, clear as day, to bring him through this exercise. I had to close his eyes, and I imagined him a little bit older, with a beard, a little bit longer hair, in like perfect shape, kind of coming in calm, clear, and collected, standing over him and putting his arm around the shoulder of him that is kneeling and crying. And then he gets his attention, and then he stands him up, and he tells him he makes it. He makes it. I know you're scared to death right now, but I want you to know he makes it. And then he embraces him, and they start doing the stressed upper breath work and a few more exercises of unlocking and releasing the core heart pain and tension where it was in his body. And as he's going through this, he is sitting on the floor with his eyes closed, and his knees began to hurt because he was actually, in the memory, he was kneeling on a hard hospital floor on it with his knees. And as he's releasing the pain from his heart, his, his chest, his stomach, his brain, everywhere, all over his body, the sorrow and the panic and the horror, he felt this immense pain come out of his knees and release. So he was releasing the heart pain around losing a child, right? Then he was recreating and repatterning the memory by reconnecting with a higher component of his own soul. So when he thinks of that memory now, what do you think he remembers? He remembers hugging himself. And then after that moment, we had both of them walk over to Luke. With him, and he came back. So there's like this interdimensional component to reality and memory that the work uses to our advantage.
And that's what your special job is, to help people tap in to their soul, bring them into a traumatic event and help them clear it because you see it on a higher level. You're not doing it, just making yourself available, and you're a transmitter, right, of that.
Yeah, so I would say I'm a conduit, right? Transmitter, conduit, perfect description. So I'm sitting there, and sometimes I'll say like I'm directing traffic, but mostly I'm just getting out of the way. And the energy, the spirit, it's mysterious. It comes in different forms and waves, but it always comes in the name of unconditional self-love, and it loves the heck out of the pain. It goes right to the pain, almost like a heat-seeking missile, and it integrates and permeates inside the pain, separates the tension and opens it up and unwinds it and releases it.
Yeah, that's good. No, I lost you. Do you still hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, okay. No, I was just answering a comment on the chat that was saying that you're doing like a soul retrieval in a way. So
there's different levels, right? If there's a soul pain, if the pain is so deep it's in their soul, then there is a level of soul retrieval. There's a level of inner child work, but the inner child work is almost like I have the person's oversoul come in and do the inner child work, if that makes sense.
It does.
So it is like a really nice reconnection to the lineage of their life stream. The source energy that emitted from the center of the universe that is now here. It's like a direct swimming back to a very high part of themselves and bringing them back in. And that just reminds me of the thing that I say before all of my sessions, and my intention before we start a retreat or a class. It is calling forth all of the unconditional love energies in the universe and their highest self, their God self, their Christ self, their Buddha self, and refrequencying this auric field and the pathways to what I've just called upon, and then calling it all down to here and bringing it right here, and then saying a little prayer and crossing my fingers so that I could hear them so I could receive the energy and the guidance and then share it.
You do hear them. You're kind of attuned to hearing them. You've been doing this for a while, so it always comes through.
The light never disappoints. The light never disappoints.
I think you told me last time, but how did you connect with that level of spirit to be a conduit? I think you told me a little bit about your process, but just for people who didn't see the last show.
Well, I feel my first session with a healer in 1999, within 5 minutes, a cellular memory surfaced from when I was 5 years old. And I went to this healer to heal jealousy and anger, right? And I was 27, and this memory popped up within the first 5 minutes. And it was of my parents arguing when I was 5 years old. And the same way they were fighting was the same way I was fighting. And then my parents got divorced soon thereafter. And at the source of the jealousy was like layers of emotion. It was layers of anger and rage, and then pain and hurt, and then fear of abandonment. So in that session, in like the first 45 minutes, all those layers started popping off and unlocking and releasing from unconditional self-love bubbling up from deep inside my body and coming from the auric field that was created by me and the healer, right? And there was a lot of light involved, and I feel that's where I was initiated into the light and into this work. And ever since that session, I was like, man, I feel like I can do this, and I feel like I am meant to do this, and I want to do this, so ever since that, session, it was kind of like a no-brainer for me.
It's interesting, like those negative emotions led you to this very positive life mission. That's what's amazing.
It was pretty amazing. Like, I always go back to who I was when I was like in that phase of like 27, 28, and I was seeking and searching. And I always felt when I took one step towards God, one step towards the universe or the spirit, it took 10 steps towards me. And I drove from California to Arizona for that session. And that session hit me like a ton of bricks. It changed my life. It changed my brain. It brought a ton more of my own spirit into my body. And really, just to reiterate something that we talked about in the beginning, it's when our reactions, when our instincts, and when our daily habits change, that's when we embody the lesson. And I know that there's a lot of people out there, and sometimes I feel the same way. When you hear the same lesson coming at you again and again and again, you're like, oh my God, I've been hearing this for 20 years. When you embody it is when you stop hearing it because you're living it. So as long as you're hearing it, it's coming back to you. And I always feel like the human body is the way to go. I feel everything we're meant to heal this lifetime can be found inside tension inside the body. And if we just free up the body, the chakras in the body, the organs, the muscle, the tissue, the brain, the heart, you're living an enlightened life if we could get the light into the body from the spirit.
Right. There's that book out called The Body Remembers, I think, Basel book of talking about trauma. And so you're just facilitating, and it happens. Can you pull up your screen and show people where they can find you the weekend of December 2nd to the 5th in the Catskills? Oh, there you go. All right. Stress is gone. Luxury retreat in the Catskills, December 2nd to the 4th. Which place is this in the Catskills you're going to be at?
So this is at Honors Haven in Ellenville. So it's about 90 miles northwest of Manhattan. We have a shuttle round trip for $60. And this retreat is going to be, well, first, let me just talk about the pictures here. So this is from one of our Omega retreats. And you got to understand, we come together because we feel there's trauma, right? We have first responders, veterans, civilians, medical first responders there, healthcare workers in that picture, and amazing group of people, diverse group of people, and from all different backgrounds. And the one thing we have in common when we get together is there's some deep emotional pain or trauma that we want to let go of, that we're ready to let go of. And that picture, you probably can't see it, but we're all smiling. And that was taken, I believe, the Thursday afternoon, not even the last day of the retreat. And the transformations are so obvious and magnetic that people in other retreats at Omega were starting to talk to our folks, and the gel that was happening and the interest that was happening was, was kind of magical. And now these other pictures, this is the lake in the back of Honors Haven. There's waterfalls behind Honors Haven. You go on like a quick little hike. There's spas, saunas, jacuzzis, and, indoor pools and stuff. So this is like, I call it a luxury low cost retreat because it is an awesome space for a retreat. Your room and accommodation, all top notch. Food is, 6 meals, executive chef prepared. But it's only $750 for the entire weekend, all the food, accommodations, and all the sessions, if you want to share a room. But if you want your own room, it's $900. And the daily breakdown is first thing in the morning. My wife, Stephanie, is an awesome Qigong and Tai Chi teacher. So she's going to do a gentle movement class before breakfast. Then we have a 2.5-hour group stress is gone healing session. Then we have lunch, and then another stress is gone session. then dinner, and then we have a half-hour dance movement session. So I feel this weekend we're going to accomplish so much. It's going to be like lightning in a bottle from a healing perspective, but also from like a physical release of tension and reconnection with your own spirit. Because we're not only doing it in the healing work, we're also doing it in the movement and the dance. So there's going to be a lot of joy. There's going to be a lot of release, a lot of real guttural emotional processing and letting go and repatterning with your own divine essence. And the way you feel that is through just like a deep reconnection in the center of your body, which what feels like yourself. And to me, it's your own divine essence, like that special energy that your soul and spirit was created with.
But do you have time to work with everyone's individually? Because it sounds like you do a lot of one-on-one where you get the spirit in. So do you do that with everyone?
That's such a great question. So here's the flow of the retreat. When we get in there, the first thing I do is find out why each person is there. What's the one thing that brought them to this retreat? It's either something they want to let go of or something they want to attract into their life. Like, let's say, a new relationship or self-love or something they want to attract in. Most people come because they want to let go of something. They feel overwhelmed with emotion, anxiety, just feeling traumatized by COVID, the last 3 years of the pandemic. They could have lost loved ones. They come in for those types of reasons, or some crazy family situations going on. And once I know why everyone's there and what they want, then I open up, invite in spirit, and I start saying phrases that they repeat. The group repeats it together. And then when that happens, usually 1, 2, or 3 people will start to have emotional releases. So people start releasing at the same time, Alan. And that's what I think a lot of people might not understand about this group dynamic, that the group is releasing together as we're saying the mantras that are coming through from their higher self, the group consciousness, higher consciousness. So as that's happening, people start releasing emotions, tension, pain from their heart, stomach, chest, back, spine, brain. And once in a while, I would say once every 20 minutes or so, someone will start releasing a lot. And then I'll do one-on-one laser coaching for about 5 minutes. And we'll dive deep down into what's happening with that person. And then even then, other people will start releasing because they're resonating with what the person is releasing. So it's very powerful, the group dynamic and the gel of the group.
But you also do one-on-one sessions, right?
Yes. So in my private coaching practice, I do one-on-one sessions. When I do the week-long retreats at Omega every Wednesday afternoon, I open my schedule for one-on-one sessions. This retreat, I will probably be able to do one-on-one sessions at lunch and then Sunday afternoon. So I usually open up the possibility for one-on-one sessions. Sometimes there's just something that a person might not be comfortable saying in front of a group. And that's what a good, half-hour one-on-one session is for, where they could just kind of like let it out and have that release that way.
But how can people reach out to you one-on-one? There's a woman who says, I'm drowning in traumatic coping mechanisms and not sure how to free myself. How could she reach you by email or something?
Right. So if you go to stressisgone.com, I'm going to click on it right here, right? And then you go to coaching.
Your coaching, yeah.
Yeah. If you're ready, look, are you ready to let go? I'm ready.
Yes. Okay.
So you could actually book a session right there, or I believe scroll down, you could book a call. If you want to have a discovery call with me, hold on one second. Let me see what there's a discovery. This goes into.
You charge for the discovery call?
No, so a discovery call is usually about 15, maybe 20 minutes, where I get to learn about your stress, and then I could recommend what is the best path forward. So sometimes it's one session, it could be 3. Usually it's like 1 or 2 sessions. If not, I might recommend a retreat or the masterclass, depending on what the person's issue is and what I'm feeling is going to have the best impact for that person.
Well, would it be more beneficial to take a retreat as opposed? Why is it more beneficial to take a retreat? Let's just say.
That's a great question. So just want to come back. So a retreat is extremely powerful because you're there. This retreat, you'll be there for 2 days and 2 nights. It's multiple sessions back to back. and it brings you through a process. And you're doing it in front of other people, with other people. Coaching is very good. It's like a super focused 45 minutes to 60 minutes deep dive into your psyche, where we let go of the traumatic memories and the emotions that are built up inside your body and inside your heart, anywhere they're stored in your body. So one is if, like, let's say there's not a retreat coming up for like 3 months, then I would recommend the coaching, right? Because the coaching is fast relief. If somebody's not under that much stress or anxiety, then I could recommend the masterclass, which is only $47. It gets all the tools, it gets all the meditations, and they get the healing, and they get the practices to keep themselves, to maintain a low stress lifestyle. But if somebody is going through a lot, like one of your viewers sounds like they're going through a lot, that's a person I would definitely recommend the retreat for, because I promise you this, when you go in, you will be a different person coming out. You will not feel overwhelmed anymore. I promise you that. All you have to do is participate 100% and be 100% honest. And here's the flow of the retreat. I say, if you feel anything coming up, put your hand up, right? So if you feel tension arising in your chest, your stomach, Brett, I have tension in my stomach, then we use the energy and start to unwind the tension from your body. So it's really just an experience of going in, if you could imagine, like going into a vortex for the weekend and releasing tension from your body nonstop, from all different parts of your body and from different parts of your body.
How do you release it from someone's body, though? I mean, how would
So
you?
with the power of the spoken word, the spirit shows up. So I'm listening to the guidance of our collective higher self, telling me what the issues are. And when they repeat it, they're expressing the pain. You know how, like, let's say you're having some issues with your spouse or whoever, right? And then you talk to somebody about it. Don't you feel better after you talk about it? You feel like a little bit of relief? Imagine talking about and releasing your deepest fear that fuels 30% of all your issues. So when you talk about that, you feel that release from the depths of your body and sometimes from your soul. And it just reshapes how you feel inside your body, from one of kind of like when, like, you feel like you're run ragged and overwhelmed and you feel like things are tearing from you and you're kind of like losing that inner sense of control, to where you feel whole and complete and in control, right? Because you feel balanced. Really, the control comes from that sense of balance.
Now, I know in your case, I'm going to ask this question, but why does the soul create trauma? Because it all comes from a soul level. And in your case, it seems like you were able to free yourself, but people create that in their lives.
So did I hear the question right? Why does the soul create trauma?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe God was bored with sitting in the center of the universe, and then he just went poof, and he went throughout the universe, and now we are on an adventure where we get to feel emotions, sadness, but then we get to reconnect with our own divine nature in the only true sense of healing, which comes from love. So it all brings us back home. So maybe God just created the universe, or the source created the universe, and then it wanted to go experience it through us. So that's my theory on it, but it's mysterious, and I don't know the answer to your question, because it's a mysterious thing of life.
It's for learning, like without the trauma you experienced, you would not be helping people. But of course, you freed yourself. So not everyone does that immediately. Not everyone frees themselves, but.
So I'll say this, I didn't free myself. I drove to Sedona, and then the universe dropped in and bathed me in unconditional love. There was a light being standing before me. There was the healer that was there, and then a light being standing before me for, I don't even know how long that was happening. I was just receiving with my eyes open in awe. Like when you're a little kid and you first see Star Wars and you're like seeing the lasers and stuff, you're like, what is going on? That's how I felt as a 27-year-old. But there was something inside of me that always wanted more. So I felt like I was like, finally, I'm seeing it. Like finally, I'm seeing the truth of what is behind the curtain.
Right. But that was an awakening. That's quite a dramatic moment. Not everybody will have that, but I think as you kind of channel through people's spirit, they're getting closer to their soul essence?
So a few people, when they were going through very, very, very deep level of trauma, I mean, like with like suicidal ideation that I was working with in person, some of them have seen things, they've seen light. Some of them have been transported in the session to a different time. One person, this is like in 2004. One person said they saw light coming out of my throat. And then then in the back of their mind, I was like, well, what was your experience when you saw that? And he said, he was saying, I want more. And then his whole experience changed. He was actually in what he felt was like the Garden of Eden. It was like near a stream with a lush garden, and he was walking with someone that he considered a prophet, right? And then he came back to where we were, and my experience was totally different. So my experience was, I felt like a crystal pop in the center of my head. It just went, and I saw light everywhere. Everything that I saw, we were actually on the front porch of my mother's house when we were doing the session. The porch turned into light, the trees turned into light, the cars parked in front of our house turned into light. Everything that I saw turned into light. And then I just kind of let go even further and just bathed in the light. And I knew he was having an experience because I saw the expression on his face, which was probably the expression I had when I saw what I saw when I was 27, which is just like a state of awe. So it does happen. So that's why I say the light never disappoints.
No, it sounds like you're doing very beautiful work and a lot of healing happening. I know you're coming from the highest intention. I totally recommend people taking this course if they can. They're on the East Coast, if they can get to New York or living up in the Catskill area. And if you're suffering from anything traumatic, or not even trauma as much as also stress, a stressful life, or what else do you work with then?
So here, that's a great segue into this, because I feel like I'm a unique blend of like these kind of cookie cutter concrete tools to manage your everyday stress, right? Like stress stopper breath work. Simple tool, like, hey, every time you're stressed, touch the tension in your body, breathe deep and slow, and once per breath, silently say, I'm okay. You do that for 2 minutes.
This is a technique you developed for stress. It's called,
Yeah, like 2006, I developed this
and
technique.
it's called stressed out for what? Breath work?
Stress stopper breath work.
Okay.
Yeah, so every time you get stressed out or upset, you just touch the tension in your body with your right hand. You could use 2 hands too if you want. Then you start breathing deep and slow. And then once per breath, you silently say, I'm okay, until all the tension goes away. Usually that takes 2 minutes. So I have like 4 techniques like that for anxiety, for trauma, for negative thoughts. And so I feel like I have, my gift to people is in like the one-on-one coaching and the retreats, right? Because that's like where the transformational healing comes in. But I back it up with the aftercare of these tools that you could use in your everyday life. Like the Stress Is Gone mobile app that predicts your stress. It sets up your meditation practice, helps you process trauma. So yeah, I feel like it's like a good combination, because we live in a rock solid world where there's real world stressors that come up, and stress is like a game. I found like when you work on something and that stress goes away, 3 months later, another one comes in, and it's like a test. So you have to get good at playing the game of how to unwind and unlock and release. And that's really what I want to teach people. And I do get into that in the retreat so they could do it on their own.
So what exactly do you teach people? I mean,
How to call in spirit and how to be vulnerable enough to let the core pain come up, how to verbalize it, how to verbalize their fear that was locked into that core pain, and then how to call spirit into that pain, direct it through the pain in the body, and unlock it and release it. So when they have that power, you know, just imagine you had a tool that you could release any tension, anxiety, and emotion from your body whenever you wanted by reconnecting with your own divine essence and your spirit. It's like, to me, that's a beautiful thing. Because you're reconnecting with yourself.
I just met a woman who does something called Ignite, and she does it similarly with a kind of ecstatic dance, yelling, but I think you guys should maybe work together, and she'll bring in that like real physical component, and you kind of bring in that spiritual level, because you can shake it out and scream it out and do all those things.
It sounds awesome.
What's that?
That sounds great.
I think you'll
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
No, I'm really happy to be talking to you again and realizing the depth of what you're doing. And how often do you do these retreats?
So the Omega retreats once a year in the summer, it's 1 week. This is the first winter retreat that I'm doing in many, many years. So we'll see how this goes. The Omega retreats have just been building and building. So I just want to have people show up for this one because it's the first one. And then we'll just have it building and growing. But we're going to do an online retreat series in the spring to roll into the summer.
Right. So how do they get be part of the online retreats series?
Yeah. So the best way to here, I'll just share my screen. Show you.
Right.
Yeah. So a great way to share, or the great way to get involved would be to go to stressisgone.com, right? You could get your free mini course, which is 3 videos, and it comes with stress stopper breathwork instruction, the anxiety freedom technique, which helps you release anxiety and express your core fear and call in spirit. And then it comes with 3 meditations and the mobile app. So this is a great way to get involved for like your first step. There's no cost. It's a really nice free mini course. And then we have the Facebook group, which is a private Stress Is Gone Facebook group, which is an amazing group. I teach in it every Wednesday. I'm teaching in it tonight. So this is the group that I would love.
Is that free too, the Facebook group?
Yeah. So the Facebook group, this is it right here. So it's Stress Is Gone, helping people break free from trauma, overwhelm, and anxiety. And I teach in it every Wednesday night. So tonight we're going to be talking about what is trauma, how it affects us, and how to heal it. And then these are all different.
Right.
All different videos, and the last week's training was right here. So that's pretty much where you see me now, is where I usually teach from. And yeah, it's like a set thing that we have. Sometimes we have like 100 comments during the teaching. It's very engaged. I do assessments. We're doing techniques in the Facebook Live in the private group. So I definitely suggest, to join the group and check it out. It's a lot of fun, and we get a lot of fun.
That might be great for the person who was in the chat. Wait, go back up to the Catskill retreat again.
Yeah.
Break free. This is what's coming up, December 2nd, 2022. Catskills, near Ellenville.
Yeah, I wanted to show you something really quick, which is the event on Facebook. And so this is the event. That is Honors Haven right there, if you could see that.
That was an old hotel. That was an old Catskills hotel, right?
Yeah, it is. It's renovated. If you take a look at some of the pictures, you're in a pool, you have, your room.
Did you say that was Kutcher's?
No, I don't know if it was Kutcher's. I'm not sure. And this is from our last retreat, just to give you a feel for like what happens, the camaraderie, how we gel. It's a really special, and that's some of the Survey Monkey retreat feedback from the the group.
Hey, go back to that group picture where everyone's smiling, because
we have this one, and then we have another one. Well, this is at lunch.
Yeah.
And then this one, that was like Wednesday. That was a little group hug. Yeah.
It's intimate too. It's an intimate crowd.
Well, we bare our souls and we become friends. And this group from our last retreat has its own private Facebook group, and people posting in it every day. So we stay connected. And then once a week, I'm on a Zoom with some of the folks that were in the retreat.
This is so good. I think, you've really committed yourself to this work. This is really.
Thank you, Alan.
Was there something else you wanted to? Oh, no, I just want to say, Brett, I'm proud of you. I'm proud that you have, because you're not doing it for the money. I mean, you need the money to survive and go and produce the courses, but you're doing it because you totally, this is your work. This is your work in the world. This is how you're spreading the light. This is, and I feel how passionate and loving you are about wanting to help people. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for seeing me. I feel like you definitely, like, we connected. You could not only see me, but you feel where I'm coming from. And, you know, coming from you, your soul's been dedicated to your work for decades upon decades, you know, and you just don't stop. And it's people like you that kind of motivate me. Like, you're doing it, you know, you're doing your own thing. There probably wasn't somebody that was ahead of you that said, hey, Alan, here's how you do this. Right. You just,
But yeah, I kind of figured it out. I'm still figuring it out, but yes.
me too. Me too. I feel like I'm in the ocean, just kind of swimming with the current sometimes, but you know, and but I'm glad to be in the ocean with you, brother. Thank you for having me on. And I always love talking with you.
No, I really do appreciate your dedication, because we need people like you, like in the trenches there, like helping people really lift the heavy stuff. This is heavy lifting. And so, you know, and you've done it for yourself. It's not like, oh, here's a technique. You did it for yourself and developed your own way, and people are benefiting. So I'm happy to support that.
There was this one guy in one of our retreats, and he was having a really tough time letting go. And I think it was like the third day or the fourth day. And he knows the work. He let a lot go in the past, but he just couldn't. And I was feeling it. You know, I knew what was boiling out. And this is the only time this ever happened. But I just go with what Spirit's telling me to do. And I just let Spirit take over my body. I sat right in front of him and I started bawling. And then that was safe enough for him to open up. And then he started bawling. And me and this guy are like freaking brothers. We are so connected. You know what I mean?
Did you start crying because you were kind of processing his sadness?
No, I just connected with him. You know what I mean? And this work, like, I don't let it, whatever comes up and out of me, it's gone. I don't attach to it. And because there's a lot, like, as I'm facilitating, I feel stuff releasing from my back. Like, I get the healing in my own body as I'm facilitating and as I'm coaching one-on-one. So that's another reason I love doing the work. I'm like, you know, it's like nonstop healing, you know. But with him, I felt like me and him are connected on soul level. He was caught up in tension. He was wrapped in tension. And I felt like I needed to mirror what it looked like to be in that tension and what it looks like to release it. And I feel like my true strength is in my vulnerability. And I don't know if anything like that will ever happen again, but, you know, worked in that moment. Like, I just always tried to do my best to listen to Spirit in the moment.
But that's a beautiful story where you're just so sensitive and tuned in and start crying. And then sometimes if someone's crying, you start to cry because we're empathic, and you are helping him feel his own pain is what I get, because you were feeling.
You see, I knew he was feeling the pain, but he had what I used to have, which is these locks and like safes placed over and chains placed over from feeling your pain. And sometimes you can't express it. So I figured if I just mirrored what it looked like to just burst it out open. And then he was right there with, like, right there, just the
You
second.
weren't consciously planning, oh, I'm going to feel, it just happened, right? It just like kind of.
You want to laugh. I went in with a plan every session and none of my plan got done. Not one component. We would before every session, we would start with a round robin, just really quick. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah.
That was it. And by the end of each session, we got to the last person with how it was supposed to be like one little icebreaker. And then we were supposed to do like my plan, but I just let the group happen. You know what I mean? Because people start releasing it and we're there to let go. So it almost starts to come like a volcano. Like, people are just letting go everywhere. So I don't stop that. You know, I facilitate that, and I just make sure that they don't identify with the pain. They let it go for real. You know?
It's excellent work, and I appreciate your passion, and I recommend joining Brett up in the Catskills, December 2nd to the 4th, and stressesgone.org is how they can go and find that retreat, right?
Stressesgone.com. That's where the retreat is. Yeah, the .org is the nonprofit where I mostly do work with veterans, inner city kids, and first responders.
I see. I didn't realize.
But this is a retreat that's open to the public.
Right. Stressesgone.com. Okay, I'll put that in the description and come back anytime. We'll do more as your work develops. And
Would love to. Maybe we'll do a group. Maybe we could do a group on Zoom with a few other people and That could be fun, right?
That would be so good to see how you work
Yes.
Zoom, and I'm sure we can get some people from the chat to come on and you work with them live on the Zoom. I would
Yes.
love that. That would
Yeah,
be
if you have any people in your network, like on your YouTube channel, that are
Yeah.
willing to do that and be vulnerable and real and ready to come on, I would love to do that. It'd be a lot of fun.
You just tell people to send me an email at newrealities@earthlink.net, newrealities@earthlink.net if you want to do a group session. And when would you want to do that? In some
You can do that
time?
after the retreat, or anytime mid-December or January.
You could give an update of what happened on the retreat, and then we can
Yeah.
work with, like, how many people, 4 or 5, or let's see how many show
We
up.
could do more. I think with Zoom, just to make sure we have enough time, if we did an hour, I would say 10 or below would be good, because then we'll have enough time to really get into it. If the people are ready to let go, if they have a lot of stuff coming up and they're ready to let go, I would love to have them on. That would be so much fun.
I'd love to see how you actually work. I mean, you worked with me a little bit last time and you were really good.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate that.
that would be really fun. Let's do an online session with
We'd
people.
love to.
And we'll promote it, and I'll get
Awesome.
people. Yeah. Well, thanks again, Brett. Stay in touch, and I'll send a mailing and send me, and we'll talk after the show. And thank you, everyone watching, everyone online. Thank you, everyone in the chat. It's always great to just kind of get that feedback. So keep up doing your work, Brett. I mean, I know you will, because you don't have a choice. You cannot.
Right. Not stopping now. Alan, you're the best. Thank you so much for having me on, man. You have no idea. Very grateful.
I appreciate you. I mean, we've known each other for what, 30 years, 20 years?
I know, it's been a while, yeah. I got my gray hair coming in.
All right, I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, everybody.